Hello and welcome to another episode of Ashes to Go. I'm your host, Redbird, and with me is my good friend, BDLG. Bordy, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Pretty awful, dude, if I'm being completely honest, man. The Cowboys just lost. It's the first day or the first Sunday of the NFL, and the Cowboys lost. And I'm not too happy about that. Other than that, I'm doing great because I get to now transition into talking about Ashes of Creation. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really empathize with you, buddy. We're doing great over here.
I don't want to hear any of that.
Kansas City, we got no worries about the season, right now. So, but dude, I'm excited to talk more Ashes with you as well. We got some cool stuff to talk about tonight. So, let's hop right in there. First and foremost, we want to make a little bit of an announcement on our website, ashesfans.com. We are starting something that we do on New World Fans as well. We're starting a guild feature on the website, so that will allow you to once you create a Studio Loot account, you will have the opportunity to create like a little bit of advertisement or just a little bit of a promotion about your guild if you're planning on starting a guild inside of Ashes of Creation. So do go over there, check out Ashes Fans. We're working on our mega post right now on everything you need to know. So that should be up real soon. Bordy's put a lot of time into that recently, so we're making a lot of progress. So go over there, check out the website, and use the guild feature to promote your soon-to-be Ashes of Creation guild.
Yeah, and I think I may be speaking a little bit out of turn. Maybe I'm revealing this too soon. I don't know, but I think there is a big possibility that we may be featuring some of those guilds on the podcast moving forward.
Ooh, okay, yeah. So definitely go do that, and yeah, we plan on having a little bit of a feature segment every week on a guild on the website. So definitely, if you're interested in any type of promotion is on the website and on the podcast, definitely go fill one of those out, and you might have a chance to be on the, or your guild would be featured on an episode. So Bordy, there was a little bit of a Fan Friday post on Twitter from the official Ashes of Creation account. And they teased at a little bit of like 3D image of a magical potion in game, and they kind of hinted at what potions would you like to see in game. Have you seen the image, Bordy, on Twitter?
I have, yeah. It looked really cool. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it's super dope. It's got like it looks like a little maybe of a poisonous type potion with purple smoke and like this green snake wrapped around the actual glass of the bottle. It's pretty cool. If you guys haven't seen the image, go check that out on Twitter. And we're going to kind of dive a little bit first into this episode about potions in general and what we want to see from the alchemy section or the potion feature in Ashes of Creation. So, Bordy, I'll let you kind of lead out the way. What are some interesting types of potions other than without mentioning like health potions and mana potions? What are the typical type of potion you like to see in an MMO?
So I have one that's kind of unique. That was kind of unique in Ultima Online, right? We're going to kick it old school for a second. It was called an explosion potion. So it was a potion that you threw. So you made it with alchemy, just like you would another potion, but you could throw it on players and it would explode, and you could use it with it. You could weave it into your abilities and get some extra damage that way. It was really, really cool. And some of them were really strong, and they were, had different potencies and things of that nature. So that was cool. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that in a game. Some kind of usable potion that does damage to someone. Beyond that, man, I don't know, because I'm not very imaginative when it comes to that stuff. So I don't really know. I mean, I think that potions in games typically do a good job implementing those. I think we need them. I like potions in games, I like alchemy. Your typical healing potions and your mana potions and all of those things, great. I don't really know what else to add.
Some of the so you keep mentioning UO, and I gotta pay my respects to the EverQuest community. There was an actual class called Alchemist in EverQuest, so that was like an entire like player class of making potions and dealing damage with them, like you said, or having like shrinking potions and giant potions and everything like that. I think that there's a lot of things you can do with potions. One of the things, though, that I think, in the consumable category in general that you want to do is just have enough variety to where, like, it keeps it interesting for the player crafters and everything, as far as like, herbalism and gathering and everything like that. But I always find it really really fun. The what are the word I'm looking for? Like, they're more just like fun potions, right? We all know that like there's poisons and tinctures that like increase your dexterity by 10 for an hour or whatever, and those are fine in general in MMOs. But I always like to see the kind of the fun potions that create like these weird effects that maybe enable you to like maybe a shrinking potion enables you to get into a cave that you normally couldn't get into as your regular size. Or maybe if you take like a giant potion that allows you to jump on a rock up a cliff that leads to a different area that you can only explore if you're under the influence of like a gigantic potion or whatever you would want to call it. Those type of things in MMOs that add that little bit of character to the game, I think, is awesome. If you can add that to each little system, it just kind of creates this wondrous type of universe that, allows for exploration and encourages fun and all that stuff. So I would like to see that, a twist on the potion system inside of Ashes is, give us things that are fun, but also like help us, in ways to play the game.
Yeah, but then what happens whenever you use like a shrinking potion or something during the middle of a PvP match?
I mean, it's as of right now they have a hybrid tag target system, so it wouldn't really matter.
There's no way that's making it into launch, in my opinion. But
yeah.
But
we both
that's
agree
another
there.
topic. But I don't know how that would work, man. Like, those are awesome ideas. I think those would be dope, dude. Like, shrinking yourself into a little bitty creature to crawl into a cave that's awesome to me. That opens up a lot of possibilities for content, but I just don't know how that'd be implemented in terms of like mid fight or I don't know. I don't know how you would use that. You'd have to restrict it in some way, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you see, Bordy, that's not for us to figure out. You know what I mean? We're fans. We can request everything we want to request, and then Steven can just smile and then pretend like we didn't hear a word we said. Or he can, if it's a cool idea, he can implement it. But yeah, dude, I think potions. I always love doing alchemy, and it's like my favorite crafting thing to do inside of an MMO. I always like to kind of go down the consumable path if I'm going to work on crafting. I don't typically isn't the main thing I do in a game, but if I ever do, I like to go down the alchemy thing. So, having that fleshed out system to where you have a bunch of potions that that are interesting to players and that usable and needed, and keeping that economy loop rolling. I think, if you can do that, then I think you're on the right path as far as potions go. So,
yeah, for sure.
All right, dude. Well, the main topic or the main talking point or the main topic we're going to go over tonight is node sieges. Now, you've recently done a lot of research and obviously been working on the mega post for the node siege section. So I'm kind of I'm gonna allow you to take the wheel on most of this tonight. So Bordy, the node system, we've talked a little bit on a previous episode about that and how that works inside of Ashes of Creation. So tonight specifically, we're talking about how you siege these nodes and kind of take control of them from a already existing, guild or government that is in control. So we'll kind of go over a brief description of what a node siege is. A node siege can be declared by any player in the game and will occur during a prime time window somewhere between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. And they've kind of like said that this was going to require some testing. The node must be level 3, the village stage, and we'll kind of go over all the different stages of nodes later on in this discussion. The siege itself is a very difficult task for the attackers, and cities and metropolises will have a considerable defensive advantage. Okay, so right off the jump, dude, I hear some things that I don't like, and I hear some things that I do like. One of the things I do like is I like the defensive player or the defensive position to have an advantage, Bordy. I like the idea of being able to hold these, hold these cities and metropolises that hold, people's homes in and all this crafting stations and everything that people build up, making it easier for the defensive party.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't I think you cut out for a second. We're good though.
All right. Hopefully that was not in the recording. I'll have to go check that. Anyways, so what are your thoughts on the first and foremost the defense being having the advantage in these fights?
I think you should, man. I think we've talked about this before in another podcast. I don't know if it was on this podcast in particular, but I know we've discussed this before somewhere at some time that I do think that on the defensive, whenever you have the defensive position, you should have an advantage, in my opinion, because you're fortified, right? You're behind walls. You have siege equipment shooting down on your enemies. You should have the positional advantage whenever you're the defending team, in my opinion. So I like that. I think that's fine. And I also think that whenever you build your node up to a city and metropolis stage, you have a lot more to lose in that scenario. So you should have some very strong defense. It only makes sense that if you're a big thriving metropolis, that you would have like a ton of ways of defending that metropolis, right?
Right, exactly. And that's why, again, we'll go on later on into the episode about player housing and how it's affected by sieging and losing a node. But it's good that, like you said, it makes sense that cities and metropolises would have a definite increase advantage of defending their territory. So one of the things that I did not like, or I do not like typically, and I know you share the same thing because we played a game previously that has this same feature in it, windows of siege and maybe not having or giving the players an opportunity to choose that window, Bordy. So what are your thoughts there on kind of forcing players to be online at a certain time to defend a node at this point?
I don't like that. I don't like that at all, man. But at the same time, it's like, how else do you do it? What else do you do unless you have a lattice system like something similar to ESO and Cyrodiil, where it's just this ongoing battle and it's this constant, pushing forward and moving back type of lattice system, and then that has its own issues as well. So I don't know how else you do it, man. We've talked about this before as well, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you structure that. I've thought about that a whole lot because there's games that kind of gate you out of content. And there's been times in a game where I put in a ton of work to build up my character. I put in a ton of work to be able to participate in that type of content. And then I never could because it never fell in a time where I could, because I typically can't get on until late. Like I usually can't play during prime time. Because I work all day. I come home, I have a wife, I have kids, I have other life duties I have to take care of. And so I don't get to get on until late at night. So I'm typically not on until 9, 10 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then I play usually until, 1 o'clock, 1:30, something like that, a.m. Central Time. And that's kind of my schedule. That's kind of my time window of playing. And unfortunately, that's never prime time for anywhere. So I don't ever get to participate in that type of content. And I know I'm not alone in that scenario. So I don't know, man. That type of stuff is really frustrating to me. But at the same time, I have no idea what the solution is unless you do have some sort of lattice system, and a lattice system in this game just simply doesn't make sense. So I don't know, man. I don't know how you solve that, how you resolve that. But no, I'm with you in that boat. I don't really care for that mechanic at all.
And, we'll go into this in depth later on, but when you have a system like this where a lot of players are going to be investing their time in a particular node or a government or growing up, the progression of a certain city or metropolis, then you do have to have some way to prevent, that being lost when they're offline, because that's like one of the worst feelings, like you had mentioned before. It just kind of sucks to, the thought of like, okay, I'm going to do so well to upgrade this. But then as soon as as soon as 3 a.m. rolls around, someone's going to sneak in and take over my territory when I have no option of defense. If you need this timing, the siege timing to work, I think you allow the defending party to select the siege time. That way they can guarantee that most of their players or the people that are going to be helping them with the defense can be online. And more importantly, like the governor or the leader of the node, setting that time on when they can be on. Maybe you have to say you have to open up a siege window between in the next 48 to 72 hours. That kind of gives a little bit more freedom there for the defending party to kind of choose when that's going to occur, because I don't like the idea of maybe it coming up like at 5 p.m. when I'm at work and I can't help defend my node.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think given the option to select the time is definitely one way around that, but I don't think that solves the issue really. But again, I don't know how to solve the issue. But I think that is a step in the right direction for sure. So, and I don't think that they're doing that in Ashes as of right now, right? I think it's just somewhere between 3 and 9 p.m. is when the siege is going to occur, and it's subject to testing. And I think what they're going to do during testing is they're going to find the actual prime time that most people are online, and then that's whenever they're going to probably have the sieges initiate. Would be my guess.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, a lot of this stuff is subject to change because they're going to be alphing up. They're going to have a decent sized player base within the alpha to kind of get data from and everything like that. So we'll see what they ultimately decide. But I'm sure they'll, with feedback and everything like that, they'll make changes as needed. Yeah. So in order to declare a node sieged in Ashes of Creation, the player will need to first obtain a siege scroll. A siege scroll is obtained through a quest that scales in difficulty in respect to the level of node, which is really dope to me. Obtaining a siege scroll will not be an easy task, and a substantial investment is required in order to obtain a siege scroll. Once the siege scroll is brought to the node and activated, the declaration period between the countdown is initiated, notifying players when this in the region. The countdown runs for a number of days equal to the stage of the node being sieged as follows. So 2 days for a village, and we know that's like the highest or the lowest level of a node that can be sieged. 3 days for a town, 4 days for a city, and 5 days for a metropolis. So during this declaration period, the players who initially declared the siege cannot exclude anyone from joining the attack, and many services are shut down during the siege declaration window. The services are replaced by a preparation quest and services for the siege only. So there will be no progression in like the crafting. I assume like all the crafting nodes and religious nodes, or not nodes, but development within the node itself. Also, during this time, individuals or guilds can register an attack or defend in the node siege, but only if they meet the criteria to do so. So this is pretty interesting to me. Citizens of the node are providential nodes, which I would assume meaning nodes that touch that node. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So providential nodes being attacked are automatically registered as defenders, Bordy. So you almost have to choose your neighbors at this point, and that's pretty interesting to me. Citizens of allied nodes cannot register to attack. So that's, that's interesting too. Obviously, that makes a ton of sense. If you're allies, you shouldn't be able to I don't know. Backstabbing is interesting, but if you've declared yourself as an ally, I think that's good that you are on the defense at that point. Players are not required to be a citizen of the node in order to register as a defender, but they cannot be citizens of the node that is at war with the node that they are trying to defend. So, Bordy, this is a lot of information to digest, but again, as almost like anything that we talk about in Ashes of Creation, there's a lot of depth here, man. And the deeper these individual categories go, the more interested in the game I become because, dude, I can see these nodes being a pretty awesome sight to see in gaming in general, and especially in an MMO.
Well, yeah, I mean, this gives you a lot of reason, like a lot of playability in the game and a lot of reason to continue to play the game because the nodes are dynamic and ever changing. And as a player, as an individual player, if you spend enough time, you can get into the game and you can run around and you can initiate a siege on a node yourself. By yourself. I'm sure that it'll probably take a group to go out and get the scroll and to be able to actually get the scroll and go use it. But I mean, you can as a player go out and initiate the siege. I like that. I like that option is in the game and that is something we can do as players. It just gives you something to continuously work towards. So if you see a node that you don't like what's going on there, man, you can just go go take it upon yourself to get the scroll and go siege that thing. It's dope.
I could imagine that if it's a metropolis or city or even a town, I think that's going to be very difficult for a solo player to do. But
I would think so, yeah. It should be.
I like the idea of, smaller guilds having the opportunity to create some sort of influence within a node. Maybe your guild is only like 10 people, but if you go out and make the initial effort to go get the scroll, if that's possible, 10 people, then I think that's really cool to have, to leave that open for smaller guilds to have some sort of influence in this node system. I think that's important. Bordy, all the stipulations within the defending and attacking parties. Do you see any like problems there with like maybe limiting those player bases too much? by creating these stipulations that kind of prevent people from being on the attacking and the defensive sides of these sieges?
You mean you don't think there'll be enough people on
Well,
on
my
one side or the
concern
other?
would be is a lot of these stipulations would maybe limit the, how people want to interact with like the siege. So like if I'm in a part of a neighboring node, I am not allowed to be part of the attacking party. And that's interesting because you technically have no choice of who is who's controlling the other node around you.
Guess you just got to pick your node wisely, man, or move.
Yeah, I
Or
guess so.
just move. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out, and the company, who you choose, your guild, and the power of influence or the amount of influence that you have within a server is going to be really interesting to see how these work out because maybe you aren't allowed to, maybe it won't be possible or very difficult to control more than one node, but then at that point you're going to try to help your allies get nodes that are surrounding your node, which is pretty cool. I like that kind of idea behind the neighboring providential nodes.
Yeah, I think this whole system creates a lot of interesting dynamics and a lot of opportunity to open up a bunch of political craziness within the
Hmm.
guilds and within, the mayors of each node and how it's going to be that type of thing is going to be incredible in Ashes of Creation. The way that people try to siege and why they're going to siege, and it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to open up a lot of political like controversy within the game.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be exciting to see how much conflict being someone's neighbor or being part of the attacking party on these big nodes will cause. So once a siege has been declared, players cannot remove any items out of their depository within the node, which includes resources, materials, and that are stored in the warehouse, chests, and player houses, storage containers, and guild halls, and within processing buildings or freeholds. This mechanic is in place to further incentivize the necessity of players to contribute to the defense of a city, and also elevates the need for that city to politically gain allies among nodes. So, and we didn't really touch on this a little bit before, but the idea of all these like crafting, stations and the entire node like shutting down in preparation for war. Number one is like kind of cool, like story wise or lore wise, having a city completely shut down in order to defend itself. But you see here, like, everything, it kind of is going to suck if you have like if you want to be part of a node that's like highly contested all the time, it seems like you're going to be locked out of your possessions a lot at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, man. It just pushes everybody into into the same mindset, though, as hey, we've got a siege, we've got to defend.
Mhm.
Everybody knows it's coming, and then it's going to be weird, though, man. Like I don't know what all is going to be restricted and what services are going to be restricted. It says most, I think. Uh, Many services are going to be shut down during the siege declaration window, which is crazy. I don't know what all services those are going to be, but you can't pull anything out of any materials out of your bank. So how you I don't it's going to be crazy, man. Like how do you craft things for the siege at that point?
Yeah, yeah.
I guess that's why you have to that's why it elevates the need for that city to gain allies among other nodes, because then you gain those allies and maybe they can bring that stuff in for you. I
Yeah.
think that's the whole purpose behind it, is so that you are politically driven to have allies outside so that they can bring you resources and materials or whatever to help
During
you win the
wartime. Yeah.
yeah, to help you win the siege.
Yeah, it's really, dude, I can see them obviously very obvious ways that they're going to tie the caravan system into this, having to pull in supplies for your defense and everything like that, dude. And then that opens up small group PvP because you're gonna want to have ganking squads preventing them from getting those caravans into the city to build defense stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
dude, I can imagine it's gonna be pretty beneficial to be a little bit of a gang squad in this game. When it comes to these massive wars, and that's challenging for MMOs to do, is to incorporate small group PvP effectively, and the caravan system, and the way that these shut down and making it necessary to, like, again, have allies and pull resources in, is a very interesting way to implement small group PvP.
Yeah, for sure. I can just imagine being a bandit sitting on the side of the road, just picking people off as these sieges happen.
Yeah,
That's gonna be pretty cool.
yeah, it's really really. hopefully going to create some very memorable experiences when all these these sieges come up. So both castle owners within the node and the mayor of the node can purchase and allocate defensive mechanisms to bolster the siege defenses. So this can be done by utilizing treasure funds in order to improve the strength of walls, gates, trap, and defensive siege equipment. Now, we mentioned a little bit before how the metropolis and the cities are going to have even better defenses. So I would wonder, or maybe even speculate on the fact that, maybe it takes even more materials to bolster these higher level forts and keeps and walls, etc.
Yeah, I would assume so. But I think as you're, if you have a metropolis, obviously you're going to have a bigger treasury. So you're going to be able to utilize more funds to gain better defenses, right? So, I mean, right. I think a metropolis is going to have, you should probably have so much money coming in from a metropolis that you should just be crazy in terms of defensive siege equipment, I would think.
Dude, I just think now, like, imagine, like, put, the target that it's going to create. If you're like an impenetrable force, if your metropolis have never had a successful siege from an offensive standpoint, think of like the lore and the character created stories that are going to happen when, like, maybe like, one node that has this, metropolis that has never been, I think about like Lord of the Rings and all of those, that lore, like having like a fortress that's impenetrable and like, continues to gain like story and history within the game of, within the time of Ash's creation. I can't wait for stories like that, Bordy, like, of, the things coming out on Reddit to where this particular city and this particular server has won like 40 offensive sieges and, and always has defended. I can't wait for stories like that to pop up in the game.
Yeah, it definitely plays in that. It plays to that area, right? Like there's going to be a lot of crazy player stories that come out of this game for sure, and it's going to be awesome. I think those kind of things is what makes a game very interesting for sure. So this siege, the whole siege, the way the sieges in Ashes work, and the way that it's going to be so politically driven, and all the stories that are going to come out of it, you're right, man. It's going to be pretty insane.
So so once the siege, I mean, this is pretty obvious. Once the countdown, whatever, the appropriate countdown for the whatever the level of the node is, once it ends, the siege will begin. So once the siege begins, it occurs over several phases, and certain siege mechanics may be gated for specific size groups during the sieges. In order to obtain a siege weapon, it must be crafted and utilized by proper materials, resources, and craftsmen, or purchased at an NPC. So the siege NPCs are quartermasters, and these will open up when I would assume when the siege window starts, right? Prior to the actual siege opening, they kind of talked about that before, like how they, all your crafting stations would be converted into things that are more appropriate for like preparation for the sieges. So these quartermasters serve as defensive points, and the attackers will begin to gain an advantage if they kill these NPCs. So that's another thing that's really cool and kind of brings me, back to an older time of MMO, like murdering NPCs inside of a city to create some sort of advantage or some type of an offensive play is really cool to me, Bordy.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, man, that these are points of interest that you want to go take. And then they give you buffs and debuffs, as you take these points. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so, like you mentioned, killing a quartermaster will increase the spawn rate or the spawn times of the defenders while reducing the respawn times of the attacker. So this is going to be a pretty significant, rally point or something that you want to kind of focus on when the siege timer opens up is gaining these respawn buffs. So the NPC guards are meant to be a significant presence during the siege, and mercenary NPCs can be hired to participate in objective-based situations. Mayors can allocate funds to hire these mercenary NPCs, and the players will assign the NPCs but won't be able to micromanage them. The more the merrier, right? It's awesome that they say that these will be significant, significant hurdles for the offenders to overcome are these, these mercenaries and these guards that you can hire in place within your node.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think about having a metropolis, man. If you don't have like NPC defenders sitting there defending your territory for you, right? I think they should be, and I think there should be tough mobs to kill essentially whenever you go into the siege. I think that's awesome. I also think it's awesome that you can hire mercenary NPCs to participate in sieges, like in objective based situations. That's pretty cool, man. So I would assume those are just, the mayor can see, okay, we need NPCs for whatever situation for this siege, and then it's up to the mayor to allocate funds to do that. So you just hope you have a competent enough mayor to realize that you need to hire mercenary NPCs. Now, I don't know. There may be a meta that goes around that says mercenary NPCs aren't worth it. Like, let's allocate funds somewhere else. And I'm sure that stuff will arise during the game. But having all these different dynamics to a siege they're gonna be incredibly interesting, man. I mean, that's a lot of decisions, man. Do you spend your money on siege equipment? Do you spend your funds on hiring mercenary NPCs? Like, what situation do you hire which over the other? Those things are that's a lot of decisions to make for the mayor, man.
Yeah, and it's cool. I like that. The more the more decisions you place into players' hands, the more, the more thought process that goes into these battles, creates increased dynamics between, what's optimal, what's not optimal. Maybe throwing something in there that isn't necessarily the meta to kind of confuse the attackers. All of those choices that are being made, being in the player's hands versus being something that's just automatically chosen, in my mind, creates for an even greater experience within these siege attacks and defenses. So attackers must make their way to a central point of the node and channel a 5-minute cast on the defending flag in order to win the siege. The only way for the defenders to interrupt the channel is to kill the player that's channeling the cast of the flag. When I hear stuff like this, it always reminds me of that. What is that? Which Lord of the Rings is that, where that big orc runs up there with like the bomb that has the long fuse, and everybody, all the archers try to like snipe him down before he gets to the gate?
Dude, I have no idea.
Anyway,
I don't know, man. I've watched them all, but I can't. Dude, I don't know, man.
I want to say it's the two towers, but
it's probably wrong, dude.
Oh yeah, I mean that's possible. I have a 33%. I think I have a 50% chance because I know it's not the first one. So yeah, dude, this is awesome, man. This puts obviously a massive target on your back if you're that person channeling this ability to capture this flag. And I like the time there, 5 minutes. It's not something that's going to happen without any type of interaction that can occur. 5 minutes is quite a time to be channeling here, Bordy.
Yeah, I mean, I can see one person channeling and then the rest of the entire siege attackers surrounding this person, defending that person against the people trying to defend their node. That's pretty awesome. Like, that's a long time. 5 minutes is a long time to sit there and defend that guy. Like, that's crazy. Time. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, if the attackers are successful in the siege, then the node is destroyed, and a portion of all materials and gatherables that were stored in the destroyed node will then become lootable to the victors of this siege as the spoils of war. This includes stored gatherable materials that were stored in housing and apartment chests. Dude, full loot PvP on a large scale, dude. I know just from playing with you over, years of MMOs, dude, this is awesome. This is exciting. There's actual consequences for losing these other than just like simply, not having access to your node anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome that there are consequences like this in the game. Now, you said full loot. I don't think it's full loot. It's a portion of material gatherables. But still, you're right. Like, that's an incredible incentive in and of itself to go in and try to destroy a siege, is that you're going to actually get loot from it. Like, you're going to get some stuff whenever you go and you successfully win a siege. That is dope. It's not just because you're going in there and you want to take that territory over. No, you go in there and you not only do you destroy the node, but you also get stuff for that. And you're not just getting rewarded, you're taking stuff from your enemies too. That's what's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and it seems like this could be one of the more fruitful activities within the game, Bordy. Winning these sieges and taking all this percentage of material from everybody's gatherables within think of them in the Metropolis and how many players that might host and how much stuff is in their banks. And how much of a percentage are you going to get from those? You could, become rich overnight, Bordy. You could be, an overnight millionaire or whatever within Ashes of Creation. It'll be interesting to see what tails they give players that a siege or like some type of conflict is coming, because I would, and they'll have to kind of titrate that to make sure that people just don't know, like, hey, there's a siege coming. I gotta evacuate all my material. And what we know from the kind of cap on player inventory, that it doesn't seem like that'll even be necessary. You'll have to literally use the caravan system, which again opens up small group PvP, in order to move all your stuff to a neighboring node if you're gonna try to prepare for.
You can't, because whenever somebody declares a war or declares a siege, your stuff is locked.
Well, no, I meant like how much of a notice will you, like how obvious will it be when we're getting close to that, where like we know that, oh man, someone has went and got the scroll now, and now we need to make sure we're trying to get our stuff out before the actual siege occurs.
I think that's the beauty of it. I don't think you will know. Like, how are you going to know?
Just happen on a whim?
Yeah, you don't get a notice until it's actually declared. There's no notice in the region until the siege is actually declared. So whenever they put that scroll down, they've already gotten the scroll. You don't know, and then they put it down, and then the siege is declared. So you have no idea. So the only way you would know is if you had some sort of inside information, some sort of intel that somebody says, "Hey, there's about to be a siege," and then that
defectors.
That in and of itself, dude, could be some pretty interesting gameplay, because what if somebody comes over there and they find the mayor, they know who the mayor is, and they say, hey,
I've got a scroll.
I've got I know on good authority that I have a scroll, but you really don't. And then you go sit outside of the metropolis and you camp the roads to kill all the caravans. All this stuff out. That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be, I haven't even thought about that till now. That would be pretty cool.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, like bandits, you could just play the role and feed somebody some false intel, and then just have a lot of PvP, killing a bunch of caravans coming out of the.
And then from a Metropolis standpoint, like, maybe it pays to have like a couple scouts outside of where the siege scroll is located, to make sure that you are aware when people are trying to go find it or whatever. I think that would also create a pretty cool, like, interesting role within a defending guild of making sure that scroll stays where it needs to be and not in the hands of your enemy, type of thing.
Yeah, if you know where it is, that's true. I don't know if you'll know where it is. If that's the case, like if you know where the scroll is and you could have people defending it, that might be pretty interesting as well.
That's pretty. Maybe it's randomly spawns. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know how you get it. It's through a quest, but I don't know what those steps are within that quest. So.
Yeah. So upon a successful siege, a node is then brought back down to level 0, Bordy. So imagine a metropolis shrinking down to nothing. The wilderness stage. So basically, anyone was a citizen of that node is no longer a citizen. Defenders can also assault this is a separate pack. But what do you think about that, Bordy? From level, it doesn't matter what level it is, Bordy. If you lose that siege, that city no longer exists.
Yeah, well, I think to take down a metropolis, it's going to be an incredible undertaking anyway, right? Like, it's not going to be some easy feat to go take down a metropolis. So if you're able to successfully go in there and siege a metropolis, that's going to be a big deal. But then you go in there and you take it. So imagine one day, like, okay, today we get on, we have this metropolis, it's amazing. Tomorrow we get on and there's no metropolis there. It's squashed, dude. And then the entire server is completely different, because we also know that metropolises give special things to the server. They each have their own kind of power that they give to the server. So then whenever that metropolis is gone, the entire server is then affected. That, or just one node in particular, whenever you go and you siege a stage 4 node or whatever, even less than a metropolis, you go take one of those, the entire server is then affected too, because then the zone of influence is affected. All kinds of things are changed. So that creates some dynamic gameplay, and I think years of fun and things to do within the game. I mean, it's really interesting how I think that's gonna keep players playing for a very long time.
Yeah, dude. It sounds amazing, and we'll see. All these different dynamics within the system really is enough to keep people entertained in and of itself, in my mind. And then you have all these other systems within the game that are there. It's going to be fun to see this game fully done and fully fleshed out, dude. I want to just follow up or finish up here with what happens. So upon a successful siege, I already read that. Defenders can also assault outposts of the attackers. If the defenders make it all the way to the attacker's headquarters and destroy it, then the defender wins. So that's how the defense wins a siege. However, along the way, if the attackers destroy some service-oriented buildings, then those buildings are out of commission until they are rebuilt. So that's another thing that, kind of along the lines of the quartermaster. If these buildings are, destroyed, then you cannot, you don't just automatically get access to them again. You have to literally rebuild them during this siege or after the siege or whatever. So if the node is successfully defended, which is something we haven't went over yet, then there is a cooldown that is activated before the node can be sieged again. So this is another thing that's dependent upon what level the node is. So a village will have 20 days of repair time or rebuilding time. A town will have 30 days, a city will have 40 days, and Metropolis will have 50 days. And I would assume that's real life days. Wouldn't you, Bordy?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
So that's quite a while, man. So those Metropolis sieges, like you said, they're going to be difficult, and you don't want to waste a lot of resources because it seems like these wars are going to be very, very extensive on what's required to defend them and also like attack them or take them over. So, you're really going to want to plan these sieges out well on these higher level nodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, dude. Well, that's been fun, man. That system in and of itself is awesome, man. I like just thinking about the different, opportunities and experiences that are going to be within this node siege system. And dude, I can't wait to experience it for myself, man. For sure.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. The way the whole system works is dynamic and really, really good. I think the only negative is, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, was just the time-gated content that you have to get in there and do. But as long as it's kind of available in a decent time, it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be a good time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can't wait, dude. We got to get into Alpha 1. We got to buy our backer package, and then we got to beg.
I'm not above it.
Dude, no sirree, dude. If it gives me access to play Ashes of Creation, dude, I'll do anything. Maybe not anything, but I'll do a lot of things. Bordy, that's another episode of Ashes to Go. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah. But before I do, I want to give a quick shout out, man. We have some friends that joined the Ashes of Creation directory. So I just want to give a quick shout out to the Lore Seekers podcast. They'll be recording their first episode very soon. And it is Lore Seekers. And I think it's just in the podcast stores. It's called Lore Seekers and Ashes of Creation podcast, I believe is the title of the show. But they were buddies of ours back from the Elder Scrolls days. They have a fantastic podcast, and you guys should definitely go check that out. Whenever they drop their first episode, it should be coming within the next few days. But anyway, with that being said, yes, you can find me over at Twitch, at twitch.tv/BDLG. Twitter is the BDLG. YouTube is the BDLG. And then, of course, creating content over at ashesfans.com under the Studio Loot brand.
Yes, and I just want to confirm, Jibs and Cash are amazing people. It's good to have them within the Ashes family. We gotta, I can't wait to either kill them in game or fight alongside of them. They'll have to choose. We're gonna draw a line, and Cash and Jibs, you're gonna have to, they're gonna have to make some tough choices. Do they want to fight us, or do they want to be our friends in game? We'll see how that works out later. But yeah, it's awesome to see that they've chose a new direction. I'm excited for them, and it's good to have them as part of the Ashes community. I am Redbird with a Y. You can find me at Twitch and YouTube under that name. On Twitter, I am Redbird. Go follow the Studio Loot account on Twitter. It's where all of the notifications for all of our content is going to come out of. The other ones are just bots, retweet bots, and like bots. So definitely follow the Studio Loot Twitter. And go check out Ashes Fans. We should have that mega post up before you know it. We'll keep you guys updated through the podcast on when that's going to go up. And if you're a guild owner or a guild leader and you want to promote your guild on our website, go over there and check out that feature. It's pretty cool. And again, you could have a chance to be shouted out on one of our episodes of the podcast. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great night and a good tomorrow or whatever time you're listening to this. And we'll see you on the next episode of Ashes to Go.